Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Epic Radio. Brian and Kirk here today, breaking down part 3 of the Game Awards for our awards this year. The Game Awards officially has concluded, and that has obviously always set the internet on fire. So we're here to, I guess, add kerosene to that and or douse some flames.
No, we have a non-toxic space here at Work to Game. No, I mean, so I feel like we should address the elephant in the room, with not really to dwell on it, because
I've lost weight this year.
It's
like, come on.
Not really to dwell on it or anything, because they've already been, my boy Jeff Keighley's already been dragged through the mud and raked over the coals for this, and I'm sure that they have heard the message loud and clear. So again, we don't need to spend a lot of time on it. But man, this year's award ceremony just was a big swing and a miss in terms of, in a year where so many devs, put their heart and soul into these games, and some of them aren't employed anymore for various reasons, and we're giving away awards like at the speed of light. We're rattling off best indie game. Sea of Stars devs don't even get to go up and accept an award. A lot of people are upset about this. I think it's borderline disgraceful. I think that this basically amounted to like a kind of like a New Year's Game Fest, basically, which was exciting. Like, admittedly, the announcements were great, the show was great. But at the end of the day, I think the people in the industry and in our gaming community, like, we want to see these games get recognized. So again, I'm sure they heard the message loud and clear from pretty much everybody in the industry, everybody on Twitter that, cares about games and the people who make them. And I'm sure they'll get it right next year. Like, Jeff has the best intentions, and he really does want to put on a great show. So this is just a bump in the road for them, but we're here to pay some homage to some games today, and gush about them and hand out some accolades. And we certainly spared no amount of time in doing that, because this has taken 3 actual episodes for us to do. We are going to wrap it up today, ladies and gentlemen, by hook or by
conclusion.
So yes,
the conclusion of our epic series spanning weeks of time. I think next year, though, what we'll do is we'll just block off like 4 hours to do one like stream at night, where I'm not having to be like,
one super stream.
Gotta go back to work.
But yeah, if you guys missed it, go check out those 2 previous episodes on Work to Game or Ginger Prime on YouTube. We gave best action game to Liza P. We gave best multiplayer game to Remnant 2.
Yes.
We gave action adventure to Hogwarts Legacy. That was a little bit spicy, and of course,
I like it. I think that game is, despite its spice and any kind of controversy, it's unfortunate that for that fact alone that it was then, I think, snubbed. That's where it's like, because they're like, well, we just don't want to have to deal with the frustration within certain communities, that it's like, oh man, but it's a great game. That's what they delivered, and they're rolling around in money and money and money. Like, they made so much money off of it. I think they're drying their tears with $100 bills, so I'm not so worried about them, but it is what it is.
Absolutely. And then lastly, we had to give RPG of the year to Baldur's Gate 3. They're unstoppable, but all 3 of those games are in our game of the year that we're gonna it's gonna come down to at the end of the show. Yes,
I have a feeling.
And I don't know why I'm up on best narrative here, because we're starting with best art direction. Gosh, so many gorgeous games that came out this year. It was tough, I think, for both of us trying to come up with nominees for this list, because holy cow, man. What a year for games in general, and especially games that just look amazing. You can see the craft from the devs and from the designers in every frame. I mean, it really is incredible what we were spoiled with this year. I mean, notable standouts that we don't have on this list, stuff like Cocoon or I mean, The Legend of Zelda even. Just fantastic art design across the board for all of these games. Baldur's Gate even. I mean, just a really compelling design that has resonated with a lot of people. But that's why we're in this weird view, ladies and gentlemen. For our audio listeners, we're going to be taking a look at some of the fantastic art for some of these games, and yeah. So, and of course,
Where do you want to start? Where do you want to start?
technical difficulties. Apparently, some of mine didn't upload, or they were there a second ago, but we're gonna fix that momentarily.
Yeah, no worries. How about I'll start running down some of the nominees while you check on the assets here?
Yeah. Go ahead and read off all of our nominees if you would.
Absolutely. Let me actually pull up the document. Like I was trying to hover over the image to be like, oh yeah, Super Mario Wonder. For me, clearly an absolute spectacle. The upgrades they've done with that one are phenomenal. Alan Wake 2, Alan Wake 2. Visually absolutely impressive. Watching a couple of streams of that game, the atmosphere and more. So much high praise. Second story R, Star Ocean's second story R. If you ask me, like, what is my favorite art style of the last 10 years, and it's the 2D HD style game, I feel like I really want to see all games that are especially like the NES, SNES era remastered into this style, just so that a new generation of gamers can step into it and really enjoy the experience. And I don't feel like it detracts from it whatsoever. Hi-Fi Rush, clear, beautiful, absolute marvelous game. And the art style and just the way that everything kind of works together and blends the color schemes, absolutely gorgeous. Liza P, based off of Kirk's recommendation alone, I have installed Liza P. I got that downloaded, so I'm gonna have to check that out. And visually, like, yeah, it's got a good level of atmosphere. So hopefully we'll be I'll be maybe doing some streams on that. I'm thinking about bringing back like a from Friday kind of approach to like working on Elden Ring and working on kind of like Fridays, making it like these soul style, just hard ass games, and do a little bit of streaming.
Remnant 2, baby. You and
Remnant
me.
2. Oh yeah.
Our multiplayer game of the year. Yeah, let's do it, man.
I also want to do like a Baldur's Gate 3 multiplayer playthrough, because I was shocked that game won game of the year for multiplayer game. I was like, yes, I'm glad it has it, but I don't think of that as like, the most I was wrong.
We got into that. No, and that's why I sort of went into all that when we talked about the categories. Is I think that we need to acknowledge games that are crafted from the ground up as a multiplayer game, but a lot of people love playing it multiplayer. So for art direction here, you were going through it. We also have Hi-Fi Rush. Just what can you say about this game? The music and the art direction for this game, just fantastic. Let's take a look at some shots from that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just incredible. Like, I mean, it seems like very meticulously designed. And again, such a departure for Tango, which was basically created to be sort of the studio for Shinji Mikami to kind of re-enter that Resident Evil type of space, and create more of those type of games like Resident Evil 4 in Evil Within and Evil Within 2. And for what this team has done with this game, I mean, I think there's going to be like fan art of this game like forever.
Yeah.
And I mean,
just like with Wind Waker, this is like a timeless style that at first I remember seeing Wind Waker and was absolutely pissed, but then years later, it's like that style still looks good today.
Absolutely. And it's so, just like, it's like kind of like that Saturday morning cartoon style mixed with like a little bit of anime for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's fantastic. The color palette is amazing. I feel like it really resonated with a lot of people. And like, if you think about it, like if this game wasn't cel shaded like this, if it wasn't designed like this, and it was just kind of like your regular kind of 3D action game with the gameplay mechanics that it has, I think a lot of people would be talking about it as a good game. But I don't think it would have captured the hearts and minds of people in the way that it has. And so that is attributed a lot to the art direction of this game, I think. Another one going
What's
out
the
from the
one
middle
that what's
here.
the far left on the list? Because that's the one that I couldn't think of the name for.
Oh, okay. So that is actually Harmony Fall of
Ooh,
Reverie,
okay.
which I've also nominated for Indie Game of the Year. A little bit slept on, this game. It is coming from Don't Nod, who are now sort of on their own. They're not sort of on their own. They're on their own after they were cut loose by Square Enix.
Mm.
So they used to make the Life is Strange games for
Ah,
Square
yes.
Enix.
Okay. Absolutely.
But I mean, and their new game, they announced it at the Game Awards. I think it was like, I can't remember. It looks exactly like Life is Strange meets like a little bit of Stranger Things or something. It was like Blood and Chaos or something. I don't remember. It was like it's something hokey, kind of indie looking. Like, I mean, they're in a band, obviously, because why would they not be? It's Life is Strange. But what they've done with this, I mean, they're really branching out and sort of trying to capture, their indie side here. I mean, this is just fantastic. It reminds me a lot of like Hades, kind of, in terms of
Yes.
the
Yeah.
the design of this. And then if you check this out, we've even got like some like DreamWorks, that era where they were kind of emulating that Disney style with like
Uh-huh.
Prince of
Yeah.
Egypt and Road to El Dorado and stuff like that. I mean, this is
Yeah.
just gorgeous, as far as the cutscenes are concerned. But yeah, like even with the gameplay, a lot of this game plays out kind of like a visual novel, which is why it didn't resonate with a lot of people, because
Hmm. Yeah.
there are some choices that you're making. This game is kind of like most comparable to like a Detroit Become Human type of experience, I think,
Okay.
in that it's one of the only games, and I really like this mechanic. It's one of the only games that lets you sort of see the pathing of like the narrative choices that you're making. And I'll just go ahead and talk about this game now, so we don't have to for indie nomination. But it's sort of like you're making decisions during the course of like seeing this visual novel play out with these gorgeous stills, where these characters are talking to you, and the characters are like actually like not really like emotions. So I know three of the characters are like chaos, bliss, and power, and I can't remember what the other ones are, but they're sort of like those sort of conceptual names for these characters that if you start ingratiating yourself or endearing yourself to a particular character, it actually like kind of can shape the narrative based on like, well, you're going for bliss or you're going for chaos or you're going for power. Like, these are actual trajectories that you can take in terms of the narrative. And then depending on like what your relationship is with these characters, it changes the pathing that's available for your narrative to play out. Like, there's options that you won't be able to take if you're not endeared to, say, here, chaos. So I just think that concept is so cool, and for them to have done what they've done with the art direction here, I mean, this is just absolutely gorgeous when you're playing through this. So I'm not really sure why this game didn't get more attention on it, other than the fact that maybe the mechanics just were not quite as gamified as people might have liked, with it being sort of a visual novel style. But it's one that I definitely had my eye on for a while, and then when it came out, I played some of it and really enjoyed it. So I wanted to nominate that one particularly for art direction because of how amazing that looks.
Excellent.
But another sneaky one for art direction. I've nominated this for every category that I could, Brian, because as you were talking about earlier, Liza P
Yeah.
freaking slaps, dude.
Okay.
Okay,
I'm excited.
like
I'm looking forward to it. That's gorgeous. That's
look at
absolutely
that.
the
Like,
atmosphere right there. Yeah.
that's insane. Like, that's like, I mean, like, I'm getting like a little bit of like classic gothic Batman. Obviously you've got like the Bloodborne influences, but
Hmm.
just the architecture, I mean, trying to be evocative of like of Paris and similar European cities, what they're able to do with the lighting here, the fact that this is a very crisp 60 frames per second game, where I mean, like, you could, if we were watching video of this game right now, you'd see his locks like flowing in the wind. I mean, like, what they've done with this art direction here is absolutely incredible, and the variants as well,
Uh-huh.
like that last shot, like it looked very Bloodborne, very like Transylvanian horror.
Hmm.
But then this, we're getting into like more of a, I'm gonna mispronounce this, but like Belle Epoque period, which is sort of like the World's Fair type of deal. We get into a lot of that sort of stuff, and there's a lot of interplay with that and the music, which we can talk about in just a minute here. but this is one of my favorite locations in the game because of its sort of visual pop. That's sort of almost Bioshock esque type of lighting and design here. You can even see it in the font where
Yeah.
it says Rosa Isabel Street.
Uh-huh.
Just incredible, the variance that you've got from the different environments. Like you're expecting this the entire time.
Hmm.
From the marketing and the trailers and everything, because they're trying to hit you in the Bloodborne guts.
Yeah.
They really want to get you in the feels there and be like, oh, come play, it's another Bloodborne. But they really do
That's
branch out over the
phenomenal.
course of this campaign. Like this
Yeah.
is like an opera house that you go to
Yeah.
later. I mean, it has to be one of the best locations in the entire game. But there's so many that are very memorable, and you really do a lot of, this being a Metroidvania style game, a lot of what you're doing is kind of traversing these environments, and it just really enhances your experience when you just are like so enamored with everywhere that you're going. Like you walk into this place and you're like, I want to like look through every cranny in this opera house. Like I want to
Hmm.
find literally every hallway, every hidden room or whatever, and you do, and it feels awesome because all of it looks like this. And I just think, I mean, what they were able to accomplish this game, can't rant about it enough, rave about it enough. I think that they went above and beyond, making any type of Bloodborne or Souls clone. They've really put a lot of their own
Hmm.
blood, sweat, and tears into this, and I just think it's absolutely wonderful. And then our personal darling, for much of these awards, which we haven't yet given an award to, but we love to also rant and rave about. It's Second Story R, baby,
Hmm.
with this fantastic art style. Whoever had the idea, and I tell me if you know if this has been done before, but whoever had the idea to put these sprites over such wonderfully realized and authentic looking backgrounds.
Hmm.
I mean, if you told me
That's
that
the 2D HD, man. Like
yeah,
it just pops, dude.
if you told me that this grass was real, I would probably believe you. Like if you took the sprites out. I mean, this just looks so photo authentic. And then you mix in like the very, very classic looking sprites over that.
Hmm.
It
Yeah.
just really pops. It's such a sensational.
I need to see if this is on
Um,
GeForce now because like that would make it so convenient for me to be able to just like pick it up, play it wherever I'm at.
Absolutely.
That's just
Hey man,
that's how I
I
evaluate things now.
I
How many
I re-
places can I play this game?
I got my copy on Switch, so
Yeah, see
yeah,
that is the choice.
I'm ready to go. Yeah, I'm ready to pick it up and take it wherever I need to. God, man, like this game is just absolutely gorgeous. I mean, just the
Look at the
water there.
water like
Yeah,
assets, and then you got obviously like again, and this is just taking that. And for me, it's nostalgia bait to a degree because like
yeah,
growing up with that SNES era style, like there's just like a fondness that I have for that, and this feels like it's that technological evolution without necessarily having to have all the overhead cost of like, okay, we're going to go for photorealistic or we're going to go for this. It's like no, like this is there's an art to this. I think there's something that a lot of people can appreciate, and for me, and especially for the kids, like I think this is a perfect for this will be a perfect avenue for me to get them into these style of games, and then kind of get them, like liking this kind of art style, so that way we can always talk about it
yeah.
when
I
they're
think
older.
I think you play this before Sea of Stars, right? Because this really
Yeah, that's a
does
good point. Yeah,
it really does, it grabs you visually, and you're going to be engaged with this. There's no way that you can look at this with the art style that they've chosen and with the way that they've handcrafted this world and then overlaid these classic sprites over top. I mean, there's no way you could get bored of looking at pretty much any scene of this game. I mean, even just the three that we have. I mean, just absolutely gorgeous. I would take any of these as like a metal print on my wall or something. Um, so yeah, I think it's a great way to sort of modernize and
hmm,
make appealing for pretty much anybody. Like it's very approachable, this type of game, so that then
yeah.
you do want to go play a Octopath or Sea of Stars or even pull out Chrono
Yeah.
Trigger. Uh,
2024 and me, I think there's just gonna be so much goodness, and it's all about like that flexibility because Octopath is 1 and 2 are on GeForce now,
yeah,
so Square Enix has started to make that step into supporting that. We got Final Fantasy 16 going to drop next year on PC. I'm hoping that Square Enix continues to support GeForce now, and finally that they're bringing Final Fantasy 14 to the Xbox. Like next year is gonna be a great year in my mind. I'm very much excited about it. Plus,
next year is going to be a great year because all the games that came out this year.
yeah, because exactly
Yeah,
like Zelda, hopefully new Switch 2. I still think, I'm like, I don't know what will end up, for next year's show, but I would predict that my game of the year next year will be Tears of the Kingdom.
Right. Yeah.
It's like, guys, I
Absolutely.
played it in 2024. I was waiting for Switch 2, man. 60 frames a second. Let's go.
Speaking of Switch, it's
Yes.
Mario, baby. It's Mario.
That's not the right image though. That's the old new.
Oh, is it really?
That's the old new. No, you're good,
well,
dude.
we got this. We've got this one.
Oh, much better.
I do see the. I do see the difference.
Contrast.
I do see the difference. Yeah,
exactly.
So
you see that difference. And for those listening to the audio, we have a picture of the new Super Mario Brothers from Deluxe, and it just is like. But then you go and switch to the
there's
new
like
Super
a
Mario
watercolor
Wonder.
like veneer like over.
This feels like the evolution of Super Mario World, both visually, aesthetically, and just thematically. It's been wonderful.
I will say,
it
new kind of does hold up. Like they're just different styles.
But then you start looking at those little bits of animation that they do in Wonder that just add to the overall like, oh yeah, and then you go and if you go backwards, it feels foreign. I've tried to go back and play Deluxe a little bit, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to delete this, and I just want Wonder. I want more of this.
But just looking at the design of the world map and the colors and how they pop, I mean, there's obviously been so much care put into the little intricacies of the design of this game.
Exactly.
And I mean, what would you expect from Nintendo? So, I mean, they crushed it. They knocked it out of the park. This game justifies its existence in every way from a visual design standpoint. And like you said, the animations and everything. So, there's no way that this wasn't going to get nominated. I think this was one of yours, but yeah, we had to sort of give it its flowers for that.
Absolutely.
For how fantastic it is. And then it's the Game Awards, darling. I believe that won this category. I think I might be wrong, but it's Alan Wake 2.
Alan Wake 2 took home some big awards. Yeah.
Alan Wake 2. What they were able to accomplish with this game, with sort of the color palette, with a lot of contrast between light and dark, and playing with that we kind of saw with Control. For anybody who hasn't played this game, if you played Control, you kind of know what's going on here with the reds and the darkness, and sort of playing with that and with light and with sort of distortion of light, and using that to sort of play with your eyes and with your mind and your senses. That's what Remedy at this point, that's kind of their calling card.
Yeah.
And they're incredibly good at it, and they're good at sort of combining that with game mechanics as well. But I think it's very, very cool how they have the difference in the art direction between Saga's playthrough and Alan Wake's playthrough. Like Saga, everything, like if you look at the color palette, it's very grounded. It's like a rustic, more like True Detective-esque feel, or maybe like a classic Resident Evil, like Resident Evil 4 or something. And then you do kind of have that Control-esque. Like with Alan Wake, they really dove into the Control universe and said, all right, this dude is like, he's going to be messing with dimensions and activating certain I don't even know how to describe it, honestly, but it's a mind melding experience, this game, and they've designed it meticulously to be that way, and they designed the gameplay mechanics to revolve around providing you that experience. Like everything is specifically chosen, which is why this is nominated for game direction for us and the Game Awards as well. This is just a intricately crafted game, and the art direction is just one of many components that they sort of compiled together to make a very bespoke experience, and that's what makes this game special. I think in our first episode of the Epic Loot Radio Awards, I said that this game was up its own butt to an extent, and I still stand by that. But sometimes you get good stuff out of that, Sometimes it's good for games to be up their own butt, and this amazing art style and sort of visual sensory experience that you're getting with this game is one of those things to come out of that. So we have some
Hmm.
contenders,
Yes.
for this category.
Yeah. I'm
I
gonna
don't.
throw all my weight behind Second Story R.
Okay,
Like that's just where, like, if you were gonna say brass tacks, what do you feel? Like all of these are winners in my mind. However, like if I
it's the
have to pick one,
innovation with the
yeah.
sort of juxtaposition of classic 90s, early 90s Super Nintendo, right?
Yep.
With something that looks like, it came out of Tears of the Kingdom or something,
Hmm.
this year. I think that, I mean, I just, I would hate if I'm wrong and somebody has done this already. But I haven't seen it, and I think it's just how popping that is, how much of a big swing it is to do this, because they could do this and it could look bad, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you could
Hmm.
just be like, that doesn't really work, or it's like, no, you shouldn't have done the sprites, like they don't look right on that background. You should have done, very Square Enixy looking
Hmm.
modern character models or something.
Yeah.
But for them to swing for the fences with this and everybody to just think it looks absolutely gorgeous, I will say, man, as an honorable mention, I mean, come on, it's just so
Oh,
good.
absolutely.
Eliza P, so good. But yeah, no,
Who do you want to go with?
Star Ocean. Yeah,
Okay, yeah, congrats
Star
to
Ocean. Yeah,
Star Ocean Second Story R for winning Best Art Direction.
for
Absolutely
sure.
breathtaking. I cannot wait to sit down and spend some time with it. Maybe this holiday season. Who knows?
Yeah, dude. I'm excited to dive fully into that game and the other two of the trifecta that we've talked
Mhm.
about, Sea
Yeah.
of Stars and Octopath 2. Yeah, that's gonna like I might just hit those back to back and
Mhm.
just enjoy the ride. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I feel you.
But yeah, no, I sort of went into that category with, what is gonna separate these, because I mean, if you look at, the art style of each of these, it's very hard, like between Hi-Fi Rush, Liza P, Alan Wake. I mean, they're all so good. They really, really are. So Second Story are kind of doing something different and innovative, and taking that nostalgia and juxtaposing it with, modern gaming beauty. I think that
Mhm.
that really
Yeah.
that really turned a lot of heads, and so yeah, I'm happy that we could acknowledge that. I don't even know that they were nominated for that category at the Game Awards for art direction. So I do know that for most of the categories they only did like 4 or 5 nominees, unless it was Game of the Year. So maybe that's
Yeah.
why. But
Maybe.
yeah, I mean, yeah, I think that's the right choice. We're just getting everything right here. The Game Awards messed up. So
We're
yeah,
fixing it. We fixed it for you guys.
yeah. Speaking of, we didn't get to hear any. I don't think we did get to hear any Final Fantasy 16 music at the Game Awards, which sucked, dude. Like
Yeah.
everybody was like, "Can y'all just put them in the Game of the Year nominees just so we get it in the orchestral melody at the end of the
Oh,
show?"
dude.
Like,
Yes,
can you just
agreed.
put them in so that we get that as part of? Because remember the year that they had like Hades and
Hmm.
Doom,
Yeah.
and I think maybe Final Fantasy Remake was in that. I don't know, but that year had the best orchestral medley that they will probably ever have. So yeah, you're never topping that if you don't have Final Fantasy 16 in your Game of the Year medley. But it did win the Game Award for Best Score of Music, and we're about to give away our Game Award for Best Score of Music. We have some really strong games here as far as their soundtracks go, and I've got some
Hmm.
snippets for us
I've
to
been looking
listen
forward to
to
this. I've been
of
looking
these
forward to this
games.
just because it's
Um,
so beautiful. Like these are like all of these guys are
oh
winners in my
shoot,
book.
but it is actually wrong, because we made a last second switch for this one. Let me fix it. We had to get Alan Wake in there
Yeah.
as a dark horse. We had to get Alan Wake in there. Also, Nintendo's not gonna let us play Mario music, so that might have factored into it as well. But Mario is an honorable mention for this category. But
Yeah,
no,
Mario, but
Alan
yeah.
Wake. I think both of us, because Alan Wake came out so late,
Hmm.
are kind of we're getting the flood of Alan Wake appreciation sort of from people. It's kind of like me with Liza P. You've had
Hmm.
about a month or so of me
Of
and other
listening to you
people
gush
in your
about
in
it.
your
Yeah.
in your community telling you that this game is fantastic.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's kind of how the public consciousness is feeling about Alan Wake right now. Like this game has really taken time to gestate with people, and I think they're like, oh yeah, this is like something special, even if it's like very full of itself in that regard. Like, yeah, it's a work of art, you know. Like I think people are like, yeah, you know, you set out to create something that is unique, and you've specifically done that. But let's start out with the big boy. Man, does it get any better than a Square Enix Final Fantasy game as far as soundtracks go? I mean, it's just like
right,
entry after entry. It's just like you just sit back and you're just like, oh man.
Oh yeah, and then like if you've heard the lo-fi Final Fantasy playlists, they're incredible. I haven't. Like I love it. I love that stuff.
We're gonna do that right now.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Token is such a master.
So good. I would have loved to have gone to the concert that they put on.
Oh, dude, I've been, and it's incredible. It's incredible.
Absolutely amazing. Then one that has to be nominated because of the entire game revolves around amazing music, and what the mechanics are around that music. It's Hi-Fi Rush, which just I mean, you're just tapping your foot and bobbing your head the entire time you play this game. And there's a reason for that. It's because the music is so great.
Oh, this is such a fun category. I wish all of our categories could be this good.
And there's so much variety too in terms of what this soundtrack brings to the table, in terms of what you know, what you're listening to when you're playing the game. So yeah, that one had to be there. And this one, in my opinion, this is one of mine. Atomic Heart, which we nominated for Action Game of the Year, which it had no prayer of winning because it's a problematic game. Yeah. But in terms of what the personality that this game has, having sort of that Russian/Ukrainian background, the sort of music that you get from that culture is incredibly unique, and also just the cultural references and inspirations there in terms of like the art style and stuff, kind of this neo type of enlightenment period, that you're seeing, like if they were to have like a second industrial revolution. That's kind of what this game is doing aesthetically. And the music, it's all over the place in terms of, I've got two here. So this is this feels like it's like from Tron Legacy or something. Like, this is crazy. Yeah. This goes crazy electronic. And if you're listening to this with earphones, you're in for a treat. So good. And then contrast that with like when you're in a boss fight. We got like Russian Doom music, like Mick Gordon style. I'm actually turning the volume down for this one. Can you imagine doing a boss fight with this?
It's like if you're struggling with the boss fight, you'd have to turn down the music so that way you can focus. Because, like, man,
oh my god, dude!
How do you, man?
This has no right to go this hard. Absolutely no right. I don't think we've gotten anything that good since the Doom games, man. Oh god, and it's so good for that genre, like for just action, just blowing heads off and stuff. Oh god. So good. A little bit weaker in this category, but I had to fit him in, Brian. I had to get my Liza P in there. Yeah. No, but in all seriousness, Liza P, it does a really great job of doing kind of what we're listening to now, which is like that orchestral, very traditionally like Souls type of soundtrack with a lot of like choir, like choral stuff.
Yeah.
But it also got a lot of recognition for you collect records throughout the course of the game as like collectibles, and you actually listen to those, and it brings your character more humanity because he's like having a human emotional reaction to the records.
Yeah.
And the records that you find in game, there's actually a lot of variance in terms of like what those are. And this is one that has like a particular backstory to it. There's like these two sisters, and one was like jealous of the other, and so she gave her like something that took her singing voice away so that she would be the only one that had a good singing voice.
Oh, wow.
And you actually fight the one whose voice is messed up to this song. There's a boss fight that you have, which is awesome. She's like a sword dancer, like rapier wielding
Sweet.
swordsman, and she's like loyal to her sister until the end when you defeat her. But then you later go and find the sister who had this illustrious singing career, and she's incredibly remorseful and beside herself, and confesses to you that she took her sister's voice, and her sister did not know. So they're doing a lot with music. This is sung by that character, purportedly.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's just a lot of variance in terms of, you're getting a lot more than you would expect out of like a Souls game, which is just gonna be that choir stuff.
Sweet.
And there's a lot of cool. There's like a smooth jazz track that you find that you can listen to as P, and have an emotional reaction to that. So that's very cool. Let me pull it up here. I'm told you have not heard the musical segment in Alan Wake 2. So this is going to be the first time that you've ever heard this. They performed this live at the Game Awards. So you're just playing the game, right? And throughout the course of the game, they have these like live action talk show segments. I don't know if you've seen those, but I forget the actor's name, but he's so good. He reminds me a little bit of Lance Reddick, but he's not Lance Reddick, so I apologize for not knowing his name. But he is the talk show host, and he interviews Alan Wake like periodically about sort of like what's going on in the game and stuff. And then like 2/3 into the game, you have one of those segments, those talk show segments, and it's not a talk show. It's a musical. And this is how it goes.
From what I gathered, you grew up nice and sheltered with mama's pretty stories, and you're all made up fuel. And mama gave me a magic clicker. Well, yes, I think it's true and fair to say.
This is a rock opera. If you guys are just listening to the audio of this podcast, you need to go check out this segment on video. Watching Kirk lip sync and dance to that is just too priceless.
They have a dance. They have a dance to it. It's not good. Like, I mean, it is good. It's good because it's not good. But yeah, Sam Lake, the creative director for this game, was up on stage dancing to this at the Game Awards. So yeah, fantastic. And that's not the only reason that this is nominated in this category. That they've got a lot of songs that are like modern and like almost like it's like a pop song or like whatever. I mean, they've got a lot of just good music in this game, especially at like chapter transitions and stuff. It's just a very evocative game, and the music contributes a lot to that. But yeah, that moment, comparable to the take control moment in Control, where you put the janitor's earphones on, and all of a sudden there's some hard rock by the same group. It's the Old Gods of Asgard. Want to give them their props, but yeah, man, that's just incredible. Like, gaming is incredible, dude. Like, yeah, I love it. And then one that's hard to ignore is Starfield, man. It hits you right. It hits you right in the feels. When you open up that start screen and hear this, you're just like, dude, I'm ready to explore space, you know?
Yeah,
Like,
it ties also. I feel like
I'm ready.
because I keep praising Starfield. I know a lot of the internet is like, like doesn't like it, and I'm like, all right, like there's a lot of joy to be had in this game, and the music I think highlights that. But there's a like every note feels hopeful, and that's what the story of Starfield for me was. Like it wasn't this post-apocalyptic world. Like humanity actually made it into the stars and was, starbound, and all these different systems. And I was like, yeah, that's cool. I think there's definitely some structural things they could have done differently with the game and the travel system. Having gone in and played a little bit more No Man's Sky, having played Star Citizen, but yeah, I'm very curious to see what modders end up doing with Starfield over the course of the next 5-10 years. The music is just, I think it's incredible. I have a hard time giving it to them as the pure out winner, but I'd love to hear your thoughts as to who you think should take it.
Oh man, dude. Yeah, this is tough. We're kind of screwed again. Oh my god. And Alan Wake coming in at the last moment and sort of sealing the show with this and with being a viral sensation. But let's turn the as good as it is, I'm going to turn the Starfield off. But yeah, dude. I mean, I think we both know who wins this, right? I think
yeah, I was gonna let you say it first because I didn't want to
we know.
Pull you into it. Yes, they won it for the official awards, and they win it here. Final Fantasy 16, Soken. Oh, and it's not just this one track. There is so much.
Oh yeah,
just Final Fantasy 16 delivers, and I know, and I'm actually coming around to. I was an avid defender. I was like, no, it's an RPG. No, it's an action game. Final Fantasy 16. I get why they did it. I do hope that we get to see Final Fantasy have a turn-based or, have that more traditional party system. I'm looking forward to playing Final Fantasy 7 Remake, but the music with 16,
just incredible.
Freaking incredible.
It's fantastic. I think Final Fantasy and the now titled Like a Dragon games really just blow you away with their soundtracks, but particularly Square Enix. I mean, 15 as well. I just know with a Square Enix game, and particularly Final Fantasy, we're gonna get an amazing soundtrack. You can always expect that, and especially for those big moments, that orchestral score is gonna come in and be. Do I need to say anything? I mean, it's so good.
Yeah,
so
it is so good.
I think a very, very deserving winner across the board. Final Fantasy 16, baby.
Yeah. Woo, good choice. I was like, well, I'll fight for 16. As much as in what you introduced me with Alan Wake and these other games, absolute, all of these games have incredible soundtracks, but we got to give it a one. And I feel good about Final Fantasy 16 taking best music and score.
I hate to cut it off. And on we go. Gosh, I don't know how my things got all messed up between us starting the show, but here we go. It doesn't take very long for me to fix. So our next category that we have, it's gonna be best indie.
Woohoo!
And I already talked about Harmony Fall Reverie. I don't know that I need to go into any more detail about that game. I do think that it is very unique, and I'm very glad it exists. Again, I'm not sure why it didn't get a ton of recognition, unless it's just that sort of gameplay mechanic set is just not quite as appealing in terms of that you're doing a lot of reading. You are making decisions that are consequential, but in terms of playing a game, I think there's a lot of people out there. There's a lot of people out there that didn't think Detroit was that amazing. I'd say Detroit is one of my probably top 10 or 15 games all time in terms of what that provides, in terms of the variance of what you can see play out narratively, depending on what your actions and your choices and decisions are. I know that parallels a little more to like an interactive movie, but I do think that type of stuff is cool. So for them to put that in front of us in this type of art style, with this their sort of classic don't nod spin on it, I think that has to put it as one of the top games in this category. So that's why it's here. One that we have not talked about yet, I think, our next nominee, which has gotten just a lot of praise and admiration from a lot of people, is Cocoon, which is on Game Pass. Everybody go check it out. But this is probably one of the best puzzle games like ever made. And
Okay.
I don't know how much you've seen about this game, but
I haven't.
it's very it has a very quaint art style. It's kind of like Journey or something like that, but like
Mhm.
more I would say more colorful, more vibrant.
Mhm.
And a lot of the mechanics involve, so like if you see in the art there, you've sort of got like what you're looking at is like you've got your protagonists, you've got the back of the protagonist, and they're looking at actually a ball within a ball.
Mhm.
And so that is a reference to the game mechanics, is that you're kind of doing like this puzzle. I don't know that I would say platforming. It's kind of like platforming, but it's not like traditional like jumping platforming. It's more like progression based, I guess.
Okay.
So like gates and things like that.
Mhm.
Um, and it's crazy because you're like in a world, like you're in like a like Super Mario 3D worlds type of
Mhm.
thing, and you're progressing through that, and then you've got like this, you find like this ball in that world, and you take it and you put it on a pedestal, and let's say like your progression is barred. There's like a laser gate or something, you can't get through it.
Yeah.
Or you need like a pillar to like go up by 10 feet or something, so that you can go across this bridge in some other part of the level.
Yeah.
You put the ball in this pedestal, and you can now go into the ball, and now you're in a different level. Like you're in a different space now, where that has a bridge or a gate or something that you need to get past. And you do that. Sometimes there's another ball to find, to put in a pedestal, Inception style. Go into that ball, solve that puzzle. Okay, now you can come. Now you have whatever you need to come out of that second ball in that world. That progression barrier is opened.
Mhm.
So now you can do that. Do what you need to do in this world to come back to the pedestal, to come out of that ball, to go to the first world you were in, to progress. And it gets crazy in terms of like really making you feel like very smart.
Mhm.
Like it doesn't handhold you at all. It doesn't give you the solutions on a silver platter. But yeah, like it really, it's designed so well to that effect of going in it, like you're going in and out of these parallel worlds very frequently by the end of the game, because you're sort of accustomed to that mechanic. And
Yeah.
it's crazy what they're able to do in terms of the puzzle design. There's boss battles in this game. There's just like a lot going on. It reviewed in the low 90s, I think, with even breaching into the high 90s from some outlets. Just a fantastic game. It won debut indie at the Game Awards. I think the only reason that it didn't win indie game of the year at the Game Awards is for the next game that we can talk about, which I know you adore, Sea of Stars. But
Yes.
these are some of the two best indie games of the year. So Cocoon, man, I can't believe you haven't seen anything about it. You got to go check it out.
I'm
It's
gonna have
on
to go
Game
check it
Pass.
out because we like
Yeah.
me and my wife like playing puzzle games. We like every now and then we'll just have an evening where we chill and play Peggle 2. But it's like, yeah,
Peggle 2.
she also loves the puzzle games, so that's something I think we're gonna add to our next date night calendar. We're gonna sit down and download that and play through some Cocoon.
Well, yeah, man. Tell me about probably our strongest other contender in this category, Sea of Stars.
Sea of Stars is that love letter to the 90s RPG, leveled up and actually brought forth with the team that is absolutely just dripping with passion. It's exciting to see that it's won so many awards officially for that title. And I'm excited for that turn-based RPG where in a year where, like I see people in chat talking about how they just felt like not a lot of games were delivered on what they wanted this year. Final Fantasy 16, very controversial for a lot of fans of the series. Then you have something like Sea of Stars come out where it's like, yeah, if you were really looking for that turn-based, classic RPG. Don't sleep on Sea of Stars. It's also in Game Pass, and that's something that I'm looking forward to continuing my playthrough on here in the very near future as I work my way through just my amazing backlog of games just this year alone.
Oh yeah. Um, And then for our other nominees in this category, we have Jusant, which in our previous episode I had nominated and talked about for best family game. Not because you can play it as a group, but again because it is a very approachable game. Obviously very family friendly, in that it's pretty much your very classic sort of abstract indie title, where you're just climbing mountains, man. You're overcoming adversity, you're accomplishing things, and it's not a heavily frustrating experience, in that when you fail, you don't have far to fall. So I think it's a fantastic game that caught a lot of people by surprise. I forget, Jusant is a French word and it means something. I think it means like the ascent or something like that. I'm not sure, but it's like a unique word that we don't have an English word for, but it perfectly describes like what this game is purportedly.
It
And
says
yeah,
ebb tide in English.
okay, gotcha. Right. So we don't really have like but I think so. I think I did hear somebody describe this. So the tide, then it comes in and out. So like in terms of life, you have a lot of ups and downs. You have a lot of positive things that come your way. You get a lot of windfall, and then you have some times of hardship. And so this game sort of it evokes like those themes, in terms of sometimes you're just going to be climbing. Wow, I got to the next peak, or whatever it is. And then other times you are going to fall, you are going to struggle. Just know that on the other side, you are going to reach the top of the hill that you're trying to climb. And so it does a lot with that thematically. It's not just like a climbing simulator.
Right.
It is sort of in that sort of journey type of wheelhouse. So yeah, I think that this game is something special, and it caught a lot of people by surprise. And yeah, it was trending in like the high 80s in terms of reviews, and it's just wholesome, just a wholesome game. You love to see those. Moving away from wholesome though, we got two games that are a little more hardcore.
Yeah.
In terms of what they're delivering, with some horror elements in either. Let's just go with the one that is full on horror first. It's Amnesia: The Bunker, which I've nominated here, and I think this should have gotten a Game of the Year. Sorry, not Game of the Year. This should have gotten a Game Awards nomination for Best Independent Game. Honestly, I think people just didn't nominate it and nominated Dave the Diver instead. Because while Dave the Diver is not an independent game, even though it looks like one, Amnesia is an independent game, even though it doesn't look like one. Amnesia looks like a AA, branching on AAA game. Amnesia is a franchise now. They're self-published. They had The Dark Descent, which was the first title that really just sort of blew the lid off of everything in terms of indie horror. That was a darling, and still is to this day. People love that in the community. Machine for Pigs, very good. They had Rebirth was their most recent one, sort of pushing the tech and like what they could accomplish there. And then this one I think is probably, it has to be said to be their best game to date. It feels the most well-rounded and fleshed out. It feels like you're playing a high-tier AA experience. They've sort of borrowed some keys from the Alien Isolation, Outlast wheelhouse, having like this kind of stalker character that you want to stay away from. You're trapped in this underground, I can't remember if it's World War I or World War II bunker, but I think you're like a French soldier. As per all Amnesia games, you don't know what happened, and you got to figure it out, and you probably did something horrible, and you have to figure out if you are a terrible person or not. That's sort of like what the narrative is. This monster might be coming after you because of something horrible that you've done. It's sort of like a, purgatory, repentance type of situation. They do good with those type of themes and sort of, making you unnerved and feel a chill down your spine as you're playing this game. Like, oh, what did my character do? Maybe a bad fate looms for me at the end of this game narratively. But yeah, in terms of gameplay, like, putting some light shooting mechanics in there that feel good. You've got a revolver that has like no more than 5 bullets at any time. So feeling that dread, feeling like, you're very close to not being able to have a way to defend yourself. They're just good at making this type of game, and just picking up the torch and keeping indie horror alive. You love to see it in a year, and in a couple of years where Resident Evil is going off the handle in terms of having great titles. Alan Wake comes out, some great AAA horror themed titles, but we want to see those indies do their thing too. So fantastic game, and wanted to recognize it. And then with some horror adjacent themes, we've got Blasphemous 2. Again, I think this is just a year where if you've got a Roman numeral 2 after the title of your game, you're just not going to get any recognition. Talking about Octopath here as well. But Blasphemous 2 just takes Blasphemous, which was a fantastic indie. It's basically just the love child of Symphony of the Night and Dark Souls. Like that's what it is.
Yeah.
And yeah, just they took the combat, ratcheted up several levels. You've got multiple weapons that you can use now instead of just the one. The platforming is good. Some people have said that the level design leaves a little bit to be desired, and like the backtracking elements. But this is in that wheelhouse of like your Metroid Dread and stuff like that. And the art style of this game, I don't have any stills to show because I only had the ones for art direction. But the art style of this game is so unique. They're doing that pixel style that you love to see with indies, but they're very much going into that type of gothic horror adjacent.
Yeah.
It very heavily leans on sort of that period of European, like the period of religious involvement where they would sort of like sell the bones of like saints or whatever,
yeah.
and then also you were supposed to like flog yourself if you did bad things, or you're supposed to endure some sort of physical punishment as penance for your wrongdoings or what have you. So the main character, I think he literally wears like a helmet that has like a crown of thorns in it and things like that. There's a lot of body horror in this game, which I don't like, but the fact that it is sort of like with this indie art style makes it a little more approachable. So this isn't one that you want to give your kids, but in terms of like it being a unique sort of unnerving experience that also gets into that like really great Metroidvania side-scrolling content and platforming stuff, and having like Souls boss battles that are really, really good. Yeah, man, they knocked it out of the park. I haven't seen any reviews for this game below 8, below the 80s. So I mean, just fantastic game all around, and had to acknowledge it in this category. I think this is going to come down to Sea of Stars and Cocoon for us, right? Like those.
I think
those
so.
Are the
I
two.
think that. Well, especially because me, like with horror, I'm like, all right, just like,
yeah. So if I can figure out how to present here, can I share a screen?
Yeah. If you can't, let me know.
There we go. Sharing. There we go.
You should be able to add that to.
Don't want YouTube Premium. Is it working?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you should add it. Do you want me to add it to the stage?
Yes.
There we go.
And let's get rid of our closed captions here. Yeah, there we go. So this is some Cocoon gameplay, and you see he's going into the world here.
Mm-hmm.
And now, and you've got to move it around so you can do the right world, and then you go in here, and then you can solve the puzzle in the particular world that you need to go into to progress. And it's very progression based. And there you go. There's some platforming elements to get from one side to the other. I mean, I've only played this game for like an hour, but like this, so there's like a lot of mechanics that I haven't even encountered yet. I mean, if you look at the design as well, I mean, this is just a fantastic looking game, from the ground up. And see, that's him coming out. Yeah, it's crazy, like the type of stuff that you're doing for the progression. And it really does make you use like your full brain to be able to go in and out of these sort of worlds and accomplish whatever you need to do to move forward. But yeah, a lot of people just were very taken with this game and blown away. But I think it's that unseen before, unused before mechanic of the jumping through the worlds, the orbs or whatever.
Yeah.
That, and so I'm guessing for that, like, so you see that he's like moving on this like elevator contraption. So I'm guessing that he had to go into the world on the left, solve that puzzle, the world on the right, solve that puzzle, and now because you've done that, this thing will move and you can go where you need to go to progress in the game. So it's stuff like that that's very, very cool. And you can take my presentation off there. Stuff like that that's very, very cool that they did with this game that people haven't really experienced before. And obviously, I mean, if you look at it, it's very visually appealing. So I think that's what people sort of gravitated towards. But I am not incredibly married to Cocoon as the one that we choose. I did just want you to see that and know that game is of particular significance this year. But I think you're gonna fight me to the death.
You sold me on date night for me and my wife playing some Cocoon. So I'm definitely going to add that
cool.
to the list to absolutely go play, because those, I think puzzle games can be a lot of fun, especially because it's any game that you can kind of pause and think through and discuss. I think that's going to be great. But yeah, I would think that if nothing else, my RPG roots, the art style, the like the throwback, the cult, everything about Sea of Stars says that that's where I'd have to put my weight behind. But maybe if you want to try to talk me out of it, I'll be game to listen.
I think you're gonna fight me to the death, dude, on that one. Yeah, I mean it's a great game.
We've been here for streaming for 36 hours and we have
I think I think it's probably not super high on my list. Like it's like that one's probably third out of Second Story R and Octopath Traveler 2. But I probably need to put it first because it's on Game Pass. So yeah, I mean, people really love this game. It speaks to a lot of people. It won the Game Awards Best Independent Game as well. Again, like I said, they should have been able to go up and accept that award. It's really a travesty that they were not able to do that, do better Game Awards. But yeah, happy to acknowledge them as well and give them our award for Best Indie Game, because I think that this was an achievement. It really was, in terms of them to come out and make a brand new game that is so evocative of and emulates like the old Super Nintendo games like Chrono Trigger and like the when I see this game, I'm thinking of like Final Fantasy V a lot.
Yeah.
And maybe even like 1 and 2. So I think that really hits people in the nostalgia bones if they played those games when they were young. I'm a little maybe too young to have experienced that and really gravitate towards that, but I definitely understand like what this is providing for people. And like you can only go back and play those classics so many times without it becoming a little bit rote. I mean, you're gonna love them forever regardless. But
that's
the fact
a fun
that
word
you get
too, rote.
the fact that you get a new experience with this that you've never had, and that it hits so hard and like delivers on the narrative, the gameplay, the visuals. I mean, every aspect of this game is just objectively like good,
Yeah.
I mean, I think people will debate how great it is, how in terms of whether it is in the upper echelon of all games, but just you could not deny that every aspect of this game is just good. It's just well made. So yeah, I think that sort of got it a lot of attention this year, and it's very well deserved. It's a well deserved winner of the Epic Loot Radio Best Indie Game Award.
Congratulations.
Are we actually gonna finish this on time? Here we go. Like, let's do this.
Like, let's go.
Best narrative is we only have 3 categories left. Best narrative is our next category, and yeah, man. Starting it off, it's Alan Wake. Like I talked about earlier, this game just meticulously crafted to be a bespoke experience. You really, when you're playing through this game, you really feel the sort of writer's touch.
Yeah.
I guess that's kind of like ironic and a bit punny, given that this game is about a writer. But it does kind of go like layers deep in that way. It's like I'm a writer and I'm writing about the game, but then you also know that like somebody wrote that writer writing about. I mean, it very much feels like
writer inception.
It's very on the nose in terms of like this has been referred to as a writer's game, in terms of like that you really feel the touch of the people who designed this narrative, who designed this very bespoke experience for everyone to play through. And I think that's probably one of the biggest strong suits of this game. We didn't nominate it for Game of the Year, But I think that we can recognize the fact that like it has sort of masterful craftsmanship in the way that it's orchestrated and set up, from that art direction, from that sound and music design, and then also the way that the narrative is structured. I think some of the gameplay is not quite like the best 5 or 6 games of the entire year, in a year where just so many games knocked it out of the park. I think that the gameplay is kind of like normal, like
Yeah.
it's kind of like in that like Resident Evil 4 uh type of deal. But it does do some interesting things with the gameplay. There's also like some weird progression stuff that like feels a little bit frustrating. But in terms of like the narrative that you're experiencing, it's got to be just one of the best narrative experiences you can have in terms of story and games out there, because of all the time and effort that they put into this to make it incredibly unique and incredibly compelling. And that not enough can be said about that. But second in this category, I'll let you go off. You're the Baldur's Gate ranter and raver here, and God, did this thing clean up at the Game Awards as well.
Just
So
the sheer fact of the like when Final Fantasy 16 launched, I was like, yeah, this is an RPG. And then I stepped into Baldur's Gate 3 and Starfield, and Baldur's Gate 3 still like makes Starfield, you question Starfield's RPG, but it's definitely there. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, this choice, this choice, this choice, and then impact all the way down. And so the sheer amount of narrative that had to that had to
the
be communicated.
variance. I mean, I've
Yeah.
I've heard people talk about like, oh, God, I can't. I think is his name Neil Newman. I probably have that wrong. I'm so sorry. But the actor that plays Asterion, I've had people say like, yeah, man, like I've seen the videos of him and his performance is amazing, but like he died like 2 hours into my playthrough, so I never got to see any of that. Like
Right.
crazy
Yeah.
stuff in terms of the variance. I mean, it really is like you have your own personal D&D table with this game and can just go back in with a new character and do a completely new story, a new role-playing experience. And that is, I mean, that's for all time, man, in terms of being able to the replayability of this game and it being compelling and enjoyable every single time. They've really accomplished something there. And so I think that makes this game a strong contender for this category. Anything else you want to say about Baldur's Gate 3 as pertains to narrative?
It literally sets a new standard for the RPG, I think, going
Oh, yeah.
forward. And it's going to be something where when you look back in time, it's like that changed the game. So
Yeah.
that's the last thought I have on Baldur's Gate there.
I'll have some more things to say about Baldur's Gate 3 later. But for
Okay.
now, moving on to one of my nominees that was an absolute dark horse for me this year. And I even talked some crap about this game before playing it and I think I even mentioned it in the first episode where we went through our what have you been playing, and I said Yakuza Like a Dragon. I love Ichiban Kasuga, the protagonist, and I kind of wish that they committed to him fully. Well, they aren't committing to him fully. It seems like they are going to do a passing of the torch in this next entry that comes out in January from their longtime protagonist. Gosh, I think, is it 8 games now? Not including the ones that he's with Ichiban. But 8 games where he's the main protagonist. Kazuma Kiryu. He is so beloved by so many fans of these games because he is the protagonist all the way through, and it is his story from 0 all the way through 6. And this is now the 7th game that he's the main protagonist in. Like a Dragon, Gaiden, the man who erased his name. Too many words in that title. But 6 was kind of the resolution of his story, like the high stakes sort of narrative there. That would have been sort of like his God of War moment.
Mhm.
And Gaiden is, I thought it felt unnecessary, but they have crafted essentially with this game his swan song.
Okay.
And this character that so many people, and I need to play through all the Yakuza games, I really do. I started with Like a Dragon with Ichiban, but this character has gone through and matured through so much, starting out as kind of just this young upstart that would just beat people to a pulp if they were problematic, to solve his problems, to actually starting an orphanage and getting invested there. His motivations changing, him wanting to get out of the whole mafia scene, being forced back into it time and time again to protect the people that he cares about.
Mm-hmm.
And now this is kind of his swan song in that he's actually dealing with his own mortality. Because, and I don't think this is a spoiler because it's been in several trailers now, but he actually finds out he's been diagnosed with a form of cancer.
Mm-hmm.
So it's sort of dealing with that mortality, dealing with the fact that, I have been the protector for the people that I've loved in my life. And now, I have an expiration date. My time is limited in terms of being able to care for and protect the people that I love. Him coming to terms with that, what that means for his motivation and his story. They've really told a story here that I think is very compelling for a lot of people. I've heard people I haven't finished the game, but I've heard people have cried during the course of experiencing this game, like just bawling their eyes out. So, yeah, I think that definitely deserved a nod for best narrative. It's cheating a little bit. It's getting like the Marvel bump, like that Endgame gets, because you have all this lineage of all these other titles, all these other games. Yeah. But hey, if you set that up, you set that framework up, and then you deliver it with a game like this in terms of payoff of this character having a swan song for them, having a moment for them where they evolve as a character like this, and it's so dynamic. I think that deserves to be acknowledged. So it's not going to win this category, but yeah, it's a good contender. Liza P, don't need to gush any more than I already have, but in terms of this category specifically, I nominated it for narrative because of what they were able to do with the source material.
Yeah.
Really, really committing to that, like saying, we are going to take Pinocchio and it's not just going to be a gimmick. Like Geppetto is going to be a main character. Your relationship as a protagonist with Geppetto is going to be a main character. The mechanic of lying. At the very beginning of the game, after you beat the first boss, your sort of handler type of character says, now to get into the main hub area, you're going to have to lie. And like when she says that, it has lie in the subtitles in red font. Like, this is bad. You're not supposed to lie. And then actually you find out over the course of the game, lying is human. Sometimes you have to lie to protect people from the horrible truth that, their loved ones might have perished, or, that sort of thing. So sort of flipping that on its head, the concept of lying is actually good because what makes you human is good. And taking characters from the books, like you fight somebody with a donkey head, they take the Black Rabbit Brotherhood and sort of make them into this sort of ominous force that you need to go up against. I just thought it was so amazing what they did with this source material, with Geppetto and his relationship with his son. Yeah, it's a fantastic experience, and it doesn't let you down in terms of what the story is, and them sort of taking the From Software formula and then saying, no, we're gonna tell a story. Like we're gonna do the Sekiro thing and really drive home a narrative that sits well with you, and you're like, yeah, that wasn't too light. I didn't have to connect the dots. I understand what happened here, and feel good about that. That resonated with me during the course of this playthrough. I'm gonna skip over our second to last nominee and hit Vemba really quick because I think our second to last nominee, we might be giving it to that one. But Vemba, I wanted to highlight Vemba here. I don't know how much you know about this game, but this is another indie darling that came out this year. This is the story of, you actually play as the character on the left, the mother, who is I can't remember if she is an immigrant from India. I think that she is. And then her son is sort of like a first generation. I can't remember if it's Canadian or American citizen. And it's sort of the gameplay of this game is that you're like cooking traditional Indian cuisine.
Okay.
So in terms of gameplay, like maybe not that's why it's not nominated for our indie category. But in terms of the narrative, what this game goes into is like the preservation of heritage and the meaningfulness of identity and your culture, and sort of that dichotomy of, well, her son is going to school, and culture there is he's under pressure to suppress his culture, to blend in, to be very American, to be very normal. And so it's like, well, what do you do as a parent as an immigrant parent, for your children to, you want this culture to survive. You want them to embrace their heritage. How do you present that to them in a way that they hold significance for themselves, what their culture is, to not be ashamed of it, while also understanding sort of the pressures that you might encounter as a young person growing up in an immigrant family. It sort of deals with a lot of those themes in a way that I understand
cool.
is very, very, very cool and very compelling. And a lot of first generation, the sons and daughters of immigrant parents, especially in the video game coverage industry, have said, I feel so seen playing this game, playing through it and seeing like how this narrative plays out. These are my parents, basically. Like I this resonates with me so much. And we love to see that. We love to see inclusion in that regard, and a story being told that sort of highlights that sort of struggle, but also that sort of celebration of heritage and of culture. But last but certainly not least, we've got Final Fantasy 16, and I'm going to give you the reins here in a second. But man, when I heard that this game was just it was gonna be Final Fantasy in the same vein as 15 and 13 and the games before them, 7, obviously, with the narrative brilliance that those games have, but it was gonna do basically their version of Game of Thrones, dude. Come on, man.
So good too. Like,
come on.
Yeah.
I mean,
like, the only knock I have against it, you can kind of jump in, is that it's not a game I can play around my kids. And so it is a game where it's like it is kind of more isolated.
Other than Venba, none of these are.
Yeah,
so I mean, unless if you want to give it to Venba, I'd be totally good with that. But man, dude, I mean, I'll tell you what, we didn't give it action adventure game of the year because we think Hogwarts edged it out by a little bit in terms of all the gameplay, all the world building, all the approachability, the reverence for the source material. And for that reason, it's not in our Game of the Year nominees either. But holy cow, this game's story and how high stakes it is and compelling. I mean, you have sort of that red wedding type of moment at the beginning of the game.
Yep.
Clive has lost just everything. He's supposed to be a dominant. That goes awry. Dude, I mean, and the voice acting obviously is kind of its own thing, but that contributes to the narrative as well. I would say that this game's a little up its own butt too, but like what Square Enix game isn't? Yeah, dude, I think this is a strong contender in this category for best narrative specifically. Yeah, man.
It's also like, not to spoil anything, I haven't finished the story, but I've been making really good progress and just streamed this Sunday some more I fought, Titan, which is so cool. And the characters are so awesome. Like I like every character feels like a character. It's not like that seems like probably something silly to say, but it's like I like them. I understand their motives. I understand, the things and the relationships they have with each other and everybody. Like there's all these interminglings and entanglements and all these little things that are just like, oh. And so then but it feels very adult. Like this feels like like, hey, it's been wonderful to grow up with Final Fantasy and then them to also deliver a Final Fantasy where they can tell a story with good and bad and dark and gray and like all these different elements. And I'm very excited to see how it goes. But I will say though, is that from a narrative perspective, I do think that they're going to be following the Final Fantasy 14 model. It feels like with the DLCs that they've announced and launched. And then I think this could potentially lead into 16.2 or however they want to structure it.
Wow.
So, yeah, like I think that essentially that this is in and of itself, who knows what will play out in the long run. But
so you don't think it's a condensed experience from what you've seen?
When you add DLCs that are continuing the story, like that story continuation, I think is going to lead into another epic.
I thought it was just going to be like the Skyrim or the I had another example. I'm not sure, but I guess the Pokemon thing where they do like 2 DLCs and they call it a day. Yeah. Or even from software games, like two DLCs for Dark Souls 3. They could do that. So I would think Rising Tide is like gonna be the end of Clive's story, but who knows? I'm not as familiar with Final Fantasy as you are, so
right, and that's where it's like based off of how they're structuring it, it feels like it's also following the Final Fantasy 14 model. It's built on the same engine, it's by the same team. I've been saying like, why not also just make a standalone single player story that you continue. It's like and it's a part of that, like every game. And so if there is a 16-2 or whatever, that would be another self-contained RPG, but you're just almost in the way of Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3, where it's like, okay, we're going to tell this big epic narrative, one epic narrative at a time. And then we're going to bridge the gap between the games with some, fun things that people can kind of, take a part of and enjoy. And that's, I didn't know, because like I haven't actually finished the game itself. So I'm still working my way through it. But with the announcement of the 2 DLCs and how it really, there is a reflection of Final Fantasy 14's patches as well, I do suspect we will see more Final Fantasy 16 in their future. I vote 16. Clearly, that's where my experience and my heart is. But
okay, so you were just surprised that I was gonna go that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's 16, dude.
Absolutely.
Easy peasy. Yeah.
Easy. Yeah. No debate there.
We're out of here. Yeah. No. The setting, the fact that they've crafted this. I mean, I hate to just reference Game of Thrones, but really, I mean, Game of Thrones. The reason that it was so popular and occupied such a huge space in the zeitgeist is there wasn't anything like it on television.
Yeah. Right.
And so like for them to sort of emulate that, there's not. I guess there's more stuff like it in the game's universe, but for them to do that Final Fantasy spin on it, I just love that this game exists, and I can't wait to play all the way through it. I might wait until that Rising Tide comes out now to play this game so I can have the full narrative experience, but I am so ecstatic to do that. Game direction, do you want to just get straight into the debate for this one, since we're getting short on time here?
Yeah.
So what do you think
so that way we can make sure
we can read out the nominees for our audio podcast listeners. So we got Alan Wake 2 again, a strong contender for narrative in terms of the meticulous design of this game and how bespoke of an experience it is. Baldur's Gate 3. I mean, can a game have been directed to be more varied and more nuanced for the player depending on what they choose? Cocoon, we looked at some gameplay of that earlier. For them to have that intricate, world jumping type of platforming and puzzle solving strategy stuff, that took a lot of effort as well. Lies of P, they knocked it out of the park. They did the From Software formula as good as, maybe even better in some innovative ways. Final Fantasy 16, it's a flawed masterpiece. What more can we say about it? Just a fantastic showing from that franchise. And then Starfield, the man, the myth, the legend himself, Todd Howard, bringing his vision to life, even if it has some problems. It exists. It's here for everyone to experience, and experience it they can. And there's not really any other experience out there quite like Starfield. Sir, you can go play Fallout, you can go play Skyrim. Starfield is a unique experience for all players, even though it falls into that Bethesda RPG mold. It's something out of time in terms of like when you were playing through this game, you're like, wow, like there's a sense of wonder. And they had to bring that to you. It wasn't just like, oh, we put a RPG in space and it happens. No, they have to convey that sense of wonder to you in how they design the game. So what are we thinking for direction here?
Gosh, like I have a hard time not going and throwing behind Baldur's Gate 3, namely just because the sheer amount of everything you have to keep like track of and how easy that could have been done. And yes, early access, I think, really helped them flesh out the experience and more. And I just think Larian, in terms of its direction and how they delivered on that game, it's going to be something that is felt for years and years to come.
I do want to shout out as strong honorable mentions both Cocoon and Alan Wake 2. I think that you can see the hands molding and crafting on both of those games in particular. That's why Alan Wake 2 won the Game Award for Best Game Direction, even though Baldur's Gate 3 won Game of the Year. Which maybe we'll have a split as well, because we're gonna give Baldur's Gate 3 Best Game Direction. Woo! But it's time to talk about our Game of the Year for Epic Loot Radio. All 3 podcast episodes have been leading to this moment. Let's go through our nominees. I know we're running out of time, but I do want to give each of these games their due. Diablo 4. I've already talked about this game. Unfortunately, we haven't given it an award yet, so it's probably not going to win.
No, I don't
But
think Diablo's
this is one of my nominees, and the reason for that is that, again, like I said in the previous episodes, I don't gravitate towards isometric action RPGs. I didn't gravitate towards Diablo 3 particularly. Picked it up, tried it, didn't really think it was for me. I like games like The Witcher. I like games like Final Fantasy 16 or Skyrim. And this game just surprised me in every way. Like there was no reason I would have thought going into this game that I would love it as much as I did. The multiplayer functionality, the story, the voice acting, the intricately crafted world, the graphics, the gameplay, the smoothness and fluidity of it, the ability to make all these different builds, the loot system. This game knocked it out of the park in terms of creating a much better iteration in the Diablo franchise. And I loved every second of my 50 hours with it, and we'll certainly get back to it at some point. Baldur's Gate 3. So let me give you my piece for why I don't think
please.
Baldur's Gate should win Game of the Year.
Okay.
I think
You're crazy.
that
Go ahead.
I think that this is a PC gamers game.
Okay.
And
true.
I think that the gaming community is defined in large part by the console community.
Okay.
And
Good point.
as a foil, Diablo 4 plays really, really good on console. Like if you're playing this game on PC versus console, sure. I think everybody probably would prefer by a small margin to play Diablo 4 on PC. But I know people that flip-flop back and forth depending on, their household. Maybe, they can't be in one room or whatever it is. It's a good experience. And so as a foil for Baldur's Gate 3, Baldur's Gate 3, yes, they made it functional on console. They made it playable, but it doesn't feel intuitive. I think that's why when you look at console sales versus PC sales, they're not even in the same ballpark. I just don't know that this game is super approachable for console players. And I don't know that it feels good to play. It feels good to as you're playing through it to experience it. But in terms of your hands on the stick, gameplay, playing the game, doing the combat, doing the things that are, the actual game, what I am doing in the game, other than dialogue and character interactions and story beats, all that's very, very cool. You're playing a game of D&D basically. But to progress that game, you've got to actually play the game and do things and do inputs and stuff. And I don't think that feels particularly good. It's very average or above average in terms of gameplay that's available as far as games on console. It also hasn't been available to Xbox players at all until 2 days ago. So I just it released late on console as well on PlayStation. I just think that this is by all accounts a PC gamers game, and I don't know that a strictly PC gamers game should be the game of the year. That is a controversial take, I know, but it's just where I sit with it. And I understand that the game is so good, especially if you play it on PC. I just don't know if it's the best overarching game of the year for PlayStation and Xbox owners alike with PC players. So that's basically how I feel about it.
Okay, fair enough. Go ahead.
Next is our action adventure winner. It's Hogwarts Legacy. Blew us both away. The reverence for the world here, how they were able to deliver their own unique story, how they were able
combat
to
with the wand. I was really I was like, how are they gonna pull it off?
The how good it feels to summon that orbs, the sphere around you, and block it and then redirect it at somebody. That feels so awesome. You can create builds around different combinations of spells, just walking around the castle, the exploration in this game, Brian, just flying around the highlands. You can find caves and little nooks and crannies and side quests, and then running around the castle. There must be 80,000 little lore nuggets that you can discover, the little thing where you go Revelio and then you see the scroll come down. It's this statue is what they had to write all that. They had to they had to recreate this entire space inch by inch. I saw a video of somebody that went in the prefect's bathroom, and it was overlaid with narration from like the Goblet of Fire talking about it, and they just walked around it whilst the narration read from the book, and it was like the faucets were blah blah blah, and like they made the faucets that way. Like it's crazy the level of detail that they put into this game to make sure that you are literally living in the wizarding world of Harry Potter. Yeah, it's crazy. And just it feels awesome to play. Whether you get on a broom and fly around, whether you are taking out, I guess they're not Death Eaters, but whatever they are, I don't remember. That you know the bad dudes that come in a cloud of smoke. That's totally not Death Eaters. That you're fighting with your wand skills. The progression that you feel when you take another charms class or you do an assignment for your professor, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna unlock this spell now. Let me see how that feels to use that in combat. Just a fantastic game. I know that we both loved it, and it could be a sneaky dark horse here.
I honestly would. Yeah.
Speaking of Liza P, I know you haven't played it. I'm so glad to hear that you are going to play it.
Yeah,
it's
I'm going to be playing this game soon.
It's on Game Pass. Everybody go check it out. Even if you're afraid of these Souls type games, I would say it's easier than probably any Dark Souls game that I played. We talked about the narrative this episode. We talked about how amazing it was in terms of the combat in our first episode when we gave it Best Action Game. We talked about the art direction this episode, the soundtrack this episode. Just a wonderful, wonderful surprise how good this game was. Everybody just saw it as like the Bloodborne clone that was coming out in 2023. It really deserves to be here. It sucks that it didn't get more nods from the actual Game Awards, but man, this game is something special, and I'm going to play through it again. I love it that much. I've already beaten it twice. I'm probably going to beat it again. Really want to get that platinum trophy for this one.
Okay.
It's just a fantastic experience, and just visceral, fulfilling combat, good boss battles. I mean, they just nailed it in terms of this type of game. I don't know any other game. I mean, you play those other games like Wolong and Remnant and stuff like that. You're like, this is good. This is a good game. Like, I like this. This tides me over until I get Elden Ring DLC or like whatever it is. Yeah. Dude, playing this, I'm just like, I would play this instead of Elden Ring. Like sometimes, like, you know, like it is that good. Like it is in that weight class. That's how quality this game is. And yeah, man, I just fell in love with this thing, hook, line, and sinker this year. So I love it. I'm so glad that we can acknowledge it here. Tell me about the last two, Brian. Tell me about these. These are probably the defining games of your year. Honestly,
these are the
Super
Mario
games
Wonder,
Super Mario Wonder, and
I cannot
Starfield.
get enough of that game. Starfield, absolutely enjoyed my playthrough of it, and I'm glad I played Starfield. I keep saying it before I played Star Citizen. Because there's definitely things now that if they ever do follow up Starfield with a Starfield 2 or some kind of sequel, that I think they need to take in that feedback. That
the mods are coming, baby. Imagine what this game is going to be in 5 years. It's going to be
that's also the most
incredible,
interesting thing, right? That's the thing. Is like when we look back at Game of the Years, like if we look back in 5 years to this year, like will we agree on the what we ended up deciding on, or will we be like, oh man, I can't believe that we're still playing Super Mario Wonder and doing those kind of things, or Starfield, or Liza P, or like what it's going to be interesting to see how that goes. Go ahead.
Is Wonder the best 2D Mario ever made?
No, at least I can't say that definitively, not yet, because I still feel Super Mario World, but that I haven't played every level of, and I haven't discovered every secret, so we're still kind of working our way through it. But because
if you said yes, I would be like, how does it not win if it's the best Mario game, 2D Mario game ever made? But okay, if you're not going to go to bat for Wonder, what are we looking at here? What are we thinking?
I think you actually sold me on Hogwarts, namely because of your concept of the PC, because of the PC of Baldur's Gate 3. Like I actually I've seen a lot of people struggle with the controller, and while that's why my guide for the controller for Baldur's Gate 3 is doing so well for PlayStation and for Xbox players. I'm glad I've been able to help them out. I've been playing it on controller on PC, and I like that as an option. But you made actually a very compelling point as to if there was a PC game of the year category and a gaming or a console, then how do we look at it as a whole? And I still feel that Hogwarts was snubbed, and I think it was snubbed for more political reasons than anything else. You're gonna get us
canceled, Brian. You're gonna get us canceled.
You get canceled every day. It's who cares?
So out of all,
that's where it's and from a truth perspective, the fact is that I feel like what you've sold me on it, because it's like, when I'm talking about reading Harry Potter with the kids and doing all these things, regardless of how you feel about the creator, this game and the people who worked on it, like, are absolutely, I think, deserving of the year of the award. And the fact they didn't get nominated, I think, in and of itself speaks volumes to the game. That's what I'm gonna say. What do you think? Are you in agreement, or like
out of all of these? And I'm giving you the last shot. Wonder and Starfield. I know these games meant so much to you, but I have to give up on Lies of P as well. Are we doing it? Are we crowning Hogwarts Legacy our game of the year?
Yeah.
It's happening. Wow, I did not see that coming. But dude, as far as
I was gonna fight for Baldur's Gate, but then you brought up such a compelling point about PC, and I was like, oh my gosh, yeah. Thinking beyond my experience, and seeing my kids delight and things like that, yeah. For me, Wonder is my personal game of the year, because that's where, when I look at where I put most of my time, that's where it is. Starfield still
Lies of P for me.
Yeah, Lies of P for you, but
Hogwarts
overall,
is just
yeah.
who that has read those books or played or watched those movies that plays this game would not be like, oh my god, I'm in freaking Hogwarts right now. Yeah. I am going to class. I'm learning these spells. Oh, there's a hippogriff. You mean I can fly on that? You know, it's just like that sense, that spark of wonder, and oh, I'm lifting things with my wand. And I mean, it's just the way this game just knocked me over. I was like, dude, this is what I always wanted as a child. Like when I was playing Sorcerer's Stone on PlayStation 1, this is what I dreamed that this type of game could be. I could be an actual student at Hogwarts. The fact that you get to make your own student, you get to have the room of requirement be your space, however you want to set that up, Animal Crossing style. There's so many fantastic aspects to this game, and that's why it is the Epic Loot Radio Game of the Year.
Woo! What an incredible year for gaming. What an incredible year. And we're going to go on holiday break. And so the podcast will return in 2024. There's going to be so much more to cover. And I really appreciate Kirk for putting in the work to collect the art and the assets. So he did a great job. Be sure to go and follow him and his content over What's New Video Games. His tags and all that were in the description of this video, guys. We love you very much. Thanks for making 2023 such a fun year to talk about games with each and every one of you. And Kirk, you got any final words before we wrap up today's show?
Congratulations to Hogwarts, the best game of the year. No, go and play all the games that we have on the bottom here and all the ones that we talked about at large, because they're all so great. It was such a fantastic year for gaming. But man, Hogwarts, what a game. I think I'll cherish that experience and turning that game on and jumping into that world probably forever. So I love that I still have that game. I can still play it. But what a year for games. And that's going to do it for the Epic Loot Radio Game Awards.
All right, guys. Until next time, take care.
Epic Loot Radio. Epic Loot Radio.